introduced by Satyajit Ray in 1957, and the last of his trilogy, which was called The World of Apu, Opur Shangshar in Bengali. That was obviously very good, but what I rate higher than that is Devi. Devi was a very, very complex role, and I was only 14 at that time. And that particular film remains so relevant even today. It's, it talks about the 19th century, the backdrop is 19th century, where there is so much superstition and lots of regressive thoughts, really. I mean, the way we look at it now. And just a very timid rise of rationalism of that time. And how this very young girl, the child bride of the protagonist is a zamindar and who worships Kali, who is Kali, who's also a destroyer as well as a creator. And his young son is studying in Kolkata and hasn't got the confidence to stand up to his father's dogmatism. And how this illiterate child bride from a village becomes the victim of this obsession. And at one point he gets a dream, and he thinks his daughter-in-law is the reincarnation of Kali, and starts worshipping her, and how her life is totally changed. And why I like it, of course, as you can see, that it was a very, very complex role, and I was also a very young person at that time. I was only 14 years old. And that obsessive atmosphere of that place really haunted me. And why it is relevant that even today, the lot of women buy into that patriarchy and understand themselves through the prism of patriarchy, and how she is completely victimized in this. So I thought that was a very, very challenging role for me, and it's very relevant even today because she doesn't even understand her own body, her own desires, and what she wants. Whatever she wants is through she puts family before her all the time. So there is no individual anything. And when they're trying to run away, she says, but suppose I'm really Devi, and suppose my running away brings awkward land to you, brings misfortune to you. So that, and I think when I look at my Hindi films, I would say Mausam and Safar. And ask me why.
Yes, I want to know why, and why are certain films, why do they kind of endure the test of time?
Well, like I said, Devi, I saw it recently in Washington as well as in London, and I couldn't really delete one frame. It was so concise and so well said, and each frame remained relevant. It was talking about that time, and everything had a reason. And as you know, Ray continuously had professionals and amateurs working at the same time. And you really couldn't tell the difference. And I was a newcomer, not just a newcomer, you called me a child actor also, probably. And Chobi Biswas was a veteran. Soumitra was also relatively new. But you really couldn't tell the difference. And Mausam and Safar is because, again, I work, my character is professional. In Safar, I'm a doctor, and in Mausam, I play a double role. And the second role, I'm a prostitute, and of course, politically correct word is sex worker. But those days, it was prostitute. And the beauty or the new thing about Mausam was that she doesn't play victim, unlike Pakiza or Mughal-e-Azam. So there is no victimhood here. And she's not apologizing for anything. She's okay. When Sanjeev Kumar tries to reform her, she says, well, what's wrong with me? I'm all right. So I like that. And also in Safar, I am a professional, and again, somebody who's living according to her own value system. And she's not, she's not putting society or family before her. So, which I thought was interesting because it was so different from the kind of roles we were given to play those days.
Yes. I think that's very interesting because if I don't know how many of you have seen Devi, but can you put your hands up, the ones who have seen Devi? Quite a
Well,
few.
that's
But
quite a few.
yes, quite a few, but it would really be worth you watching it. If you look at most film critics around the world, and when they list their favorite films, you will find Mr. Ray's films are always there, and Devi is a very, very important film. And I honestly think all people should watch it because, as Sharmila is saying, that there isn't a frame that's missing. And even though people complain a lot about cinema today, we are forgetting these wonderful classics. And she's so fortunate to have worked with the best classics of Indian cinema. Now, many of you may know that she started her career with Satyajit Ray, and I would like her to tell us how he found her, because she was very young, and how did he come to meet you?
In Opur Shankshar, he was looking for a very young person to play the child bride of Opur, and he had all his scouts in front of schools, wherever young people go. I think school is one of them. So one of them probably followed me home and found me, and then he got in touch with my father, and that's how it happened. And then, of course, I met him, and here was this very tall man with a booming voice, but somehow he didn't overwhelm me. I found him because he had this habit of looking straight into your eyes, and somehow one felt there was warmth, and I could connect with him. So he didn't put me off at all, and I felt that I could trust him. And that's how I met him, really. He found me more than I found him.
You know, the film that we were just talking about, The World of Apu, is again, I think, in the top 10 best films ever of all time. I think the first one is now Vertigo. It used to be Citizen Kane. And Apu Sansar is usually number 3 or 4. So another wonderful, wonderful film. But as you say, you had just come from school, and there you were, facing the camera. Today, I think everybody here knows what a camera is, how it works, and such familiarity with it. But how did you deal with the camera? Because it was so new for you.
I remember my first shot of the film. This is a scene where Oppu has married Aparna and have brought her to his one-room Barsati in Kolkata, and we are standing as a couple behind a closed door, and inside the room we are standing this side of the door, and the other side is the camera, and just before that Soumitra asks me that, are you feeling nervous? So I sort of looked at him, I said, no, I'm not feeling nervous. And then Manikda said, Satyajit Ray, we called him Manikda, and he said, start sound, camera, action. And Soumitra opened the door and looked back at me, entered the room, looked back at me and said, Esho, come in. So I sort of walk in, and I just go forward, look up, look right, look left, shrug my shoulders, and cut, next shot. So that was my first shot. And then later, much later, I was only 13 then, but much later, I wanted to ask him, of course he was gone then, but I really wanted to know, had he on purpose kept that scene? Because probably Aparna and I were about the same age, and Aparna had no idea what was on the other side of the room, or other side of the door. Nor did I, really. So it was really, both of us were entering a new world, you know? Yeah. And isn't that very poignant?
That's fantastic, yes.
I know, I didn't make the connection then, but later, much later, 30 years later, I suddenly felt wow, I mean, he must have thought about it and kept it like that. I don't know. Now I can't ask him. Now he's gone. But yes, that was my first shot. But I think when you are in school and used to taking directions from your teachers and other older people, you're not nervous because you don't have any baggage. You have no. You just told whatever he told me that look right, go and do this, wear saris because I walked in with I was used to wear a frock. So I walked in and they dressed me up in a sari, and so I just did whatever they told me to do because, and much later, I think in Devi and later, because I was very precocious, I read a lot. So there was that field of imagination where I was, thinking things out. But as far as dressing up or being in that actual physicality of the movements, the directions came from Ray, and I just did what I was told because being a schoolgirl, I guess it came easily to me.
You know that the people who know Ray's work will know that actually the key films were made during the 60s. And I want to just ask you, you went back again to him in the 70s for Days and Nights in the Forest. But because we've got to talk about many years of your career, I just wanted you to share with us what do you think is the key thing you learned from him?
Oh, he had so much to say. I mean, again, all these things came to me much later. I wasn't really analyzing him then, but I would say that he was a great communicator. He, all of us were given a script, and he worked with children and with anybody. But like I said, he was a very tall man. He would come to you and bend. He always made eye contact and just read out the scene that you were supposed to do. But of course, you had to know your script before that. Like I said, we were given a script. And he just said that once or twice, and hardly any rehearsals, mainly for the camera. And then we couldn't afford more than one take or two takes because we never had money, we never had enough films. So it was all made in shoestring budget. And yet he competed with the best in the world with that kind of budget, with that kind of lack of equipments, etc. So I would say that he was so organized with every single craft of the cinema. He was in total control, whether it was the camera, whether it was the editing, whether it was the titles, whether it was the wardrobe, everything. And he came totally prepared on the set. And he was rooted in East and West, both the cultures, very well. And although he was completely Bengali and Calcuttan, really, but his films transcended geographical boundaries and time boundaries. So that's why they remain so relevant even today. He could speak to his films, spoke to everybody, and even now it has many revisitations. I've seen films even today, Opur Shangshar, Orone Din Ratri, all these films, the fourth generations watching those films and reacting exactly the same way. Where Durga sees the train, the swing sequence in Charulata, the end of Shima Baddho, everywhere is the similar reaction, and you rediscover the same thing again. So it's remained so relevant and so contemporary. You see Days and Nights of the Forest, and it's so contemporary. So I think this quality is what I really like the best in him, that he could speak to the home audience and the world at the same time. He could have this enthusiastic dialogue with home and abroad simultaneously.
Then in the 60s, as everyone will know, Sharmila then decided to work in Bombay. And the first film she did there was Kashmir Ki Kali with Shakti Samanta. And if you all haven't seen it, you will remember the song Tareef Karun Kya Uski, and it was about you. And there was Shami Kapoor there. So can you tell us how you came to be working in Hindi films?
I think again it was the Bengali connection. Shakti Samanta was Bengali. The writer was Bengali, Sachin Bhaumik. And Sachin Bhaumik was also a columnist. You know, he used to write all these things in Desh and other Indian Bengali magazines. And my mother was quite a fan of his. So I don't know how it came about. And Opur Shangshar had released, and Apurna had become the heartthrob of Kolkata. And because it epitomizes romance, and I was very popular. So I guess they wanted, and Shammi Kapoor was working with new heroines at that time. He was introducing new people, and Shakti thought it would be a great marketing gimmick to have a young new person with of Opur Shangshar fame. So I guess that's how it came about. I think so, yes.
We got a very enthusiastic response when we talked about the song Tareef Karu. Do you remember how it was filming it?
Yes, of course. How can one forget shooting with Shammi Kapoor, because it was such an adventure. Because although we rehearsed and everything, but at the actual take, he did exactly what he wanted. I was sort of expecting him from the right, and he would come from there, and I wanted him to do something, so I sort of learnt on my feet, really. And he was so good with his songs and everything. I remember we were shooting in Kashmir in the Nehru Park, you know, where the Dal Lake is. I don't know if it's still there or not. And this was way back in 1963. And I met Asha ji. Asha Bhosle was there. Rupi Nair was there. So it was wonderful. But it was very traumatic for me, because that was the first time I was lip syncing. And acting was, of course, the Hindi language was a bit of a challenge also, because I spoke Bengali first. I had the Devanagari script, so the script didn't, because I had done Sanskrit, I could read the script. But singing songs was a big challenge, because, you know, somebody else singing and then you giving, you know, just miming the lips was, that I found extremely difficult.
So did you find you had to take lots of takes, or how would it work?
No, I think we rehearsed a little bit, and I was nervous, but it worked out. By the time the film was over, I think I had mastered it.
Then, of course, there was everybody here will have heard about An Evening in Paris, and everyone talked about the costumes and the various things. Can you tell me a little bit about, here you go from very realistic cinema, which is Mr. Ray's cinema, to a very fantasized version of storytelling. How did you make that transition, and did you have any problems dealing with the two worlds?
You know, I really didn't, because again, I thought it was I know there is like in Bengal, I had to face a lot of criticism that how can you work with Ray and then go to a very crass commercial cinema. But I didn't look at it like that. Again, I was very young, and it makes, makes sense to go from regional cinema to the national scene. I mean, obviously you want more viewership, and nobody can deny that my Hindi films had given me much more visibility than Bengali films did. But yes, the two genres were completely different. There was Bengali films, which obviously, you know, when you're working in a regional film, you have the same language, everybody is dressed the same way, and identification is so much more, so much easier. So that is a different kind of genre. And whereas when you're working in a Hindi film, because you're pitching the film to the rest of India. And I remember in our time, we were never Miss Kapoor or Mr. Sen. It was always Miss Anisha and Mr. Deepak, because they didn't want to have a surname or didn't want to tell you that this is where you came from. So it was slightly ambiguous, like the maid would be wearing a ghagra choli, the mother would be wearing a sari, and you'd be wearing... So it was all kind of keeping everybody happy, kind of. So the popular cinema had a different language. It was reaching out to more people. And it had to tell a story, and whichever way they could tell that story, they did. Because popular cinema is popular because it encapsulates all the contradictions that exist in society. And therefore, it speaks to every one of us. And that is why it's popular. So I think that was little difficult because you had to communicate an emotion, but you had to really say it, not terribly OTT, but at the same time it had to be little higher than the, like for instance, when I worked in a Bengali film, they'll say, this is not a Hindi film, you can't take so long. Just say it. No, sorry, I mean, you can't say it so quickly. You have to feel it and then say it. So when I came back to, said, no, this is not a Ray film, so you can't take so long to say it. You have to, So it was slightly different, but thank God I've been able to straddle both Hindi and my regional films. And speaking in one's own language, acting in one's own language gives you the satisfaction that nothing else can. And so I never left Bengal. Of course, I've worked for many years in.
I don't know, is this mic working? I don't think so. Shall we try the other one?
But keep it
Is
close
this
to your
one
mouth.
working?
Keep it close
Yeah,
to your
this is
mouth.
better. Okay, fine.
Keep it close to
Okay, yes. I would like to ask you, do you remember the first day that you were recognized on the street as a star?
Oh my God, that's many, many years ago, I think. I really don't remember, Munni, when I was. It must have been. And those days, times were so different. There was no television, there was nothing, and you couldn't really see actors as easily as you do. And there was no endorsement either. So now you see people, stars all the time. And those days, people were really star crazy. And
You mean more than now?
oh, much more, much more.
Look at
I
this.
mean, no, because when they saw us, we got mobbed. We really, really got mobbed. And because we were not accessible, nobody saw us. So there was this
there was
tremendous interest.
And there was more mystique, do you think?
Yes, of course. And even the hierarchy of filmmaking was quite different. Because suppose the producer, the director, and the actors were the center. Even the cameraman stood in the periphery of your vision and would come quietly and speak to the directors and things. And you were not expected to. I remember when the wrap-up party happened for Kashmir Ki Kali, Robert, dance master, came and asked me for a dance, and I got up and danced. And Shakti was very upset. Said, heroines don't do these things. You have to sit very decorously, quietly, and not talk much and not smile much. So those were very different. The heroines wore white. They were chaperoned. So not like today at all.
And in that time, especially when you were working Hindi films,
Yes.
you come from a very illustrious family. Did you find that your family was not too happy about you joining films?
When Opur Shangshar happened, my father was not at all unhappy because Ray had already proved himself as a different kind of filmmaker. But my school was very unhappy. I think I've said it in many interviews. My principal asked me to leave my school. So I had to change my school. And it was very traumatic. These parents do these strange things to you. They took me out of this Bengali medium school and put me in an English medium school. And I had no English. So it was, and 13 is not a baby. So I had real struggle to.
That means you didn't speak English at home or anything?
No, we spoke in Bengali. And no, I didn't. I had the words, but I didn't have the grammar. And so I would think in Bengali, and my mother would help me construct the sentence. So it was tough. But yes, my parents didn't mind so much, but Miss Das, my principal, felt that I would be a bad influence on other children and asked me to leave, although I was a good student. So, and we were the first generation of working women. And working women were frowned upon. And working women in films were doubly frowned upon. So you can imagine, so we've seen it all, really.
Yes. Now, before we talk about today, I would like to ask you something about How would you define a good performance? When you see someone on the stage, who did you take as your model?
Um, of course, I liked Suchitra Sen, Uttam Kumar and Suchitra Sen. I mean, and we were not allowed to watch films. We were not allowed to. My only film I saw was Jhanak Jhanak Payal Baje as a young person, because that was a dancing kind of film, and that's it. And much later, Mughal-e-Azam, but by that time I was slightly older. So I didn't really. We were not allowed to see films. And one day, I think when I was in class 3 or 4, they had cut my hair short, and I was in tears. And so to calm me down, they had taken me to see Shade Chuattur, which was a Uttam Suchitra film. But later on, when you are asking me about icons, I would say Wahida ji, Wahida Rehman. I just absolutely adore her, and Nutan and Meena Kumari. These three were some, actors that I really loved. Meena Kumari's dialogue delivery, her, that wonderful voice she had, and Nutan was so versatile, and Wahida ji was just wonderful.
Yes. And obviously the heroines and the actresses have changed a lot, and there's been so much talk about the women in films, and unfortunately there's a big emphasis on item songs and so on. What is your feeling about what's been going on?
Well, today working in films has become, everybody wants to work in films. It's not at all a profession it's a coveted profession, really. In fact, recently we were touring America, and everybody said our daughter, of course first they met me and they said how much they love Indian films and how wonderful it is and all that praise. And then suddenly, because I suppose I've been around for so long, everybody feels close to me, they've seen me and I'm kind of somebody they can confide in. And then they said, but my daughter is wanting to act in films, and my son is giving up his university, Stanford chhod diya, and now he wants to join films. So I could see their fear. So it is a kind of paradox. In one way, they admire Hindi films, and they would like to be part of that. And at the same time, they've heard many things about Indian films, and the older generation is very worried. But the younger generation is very gung-ho, and they feel that and I agree that this is a wonderful way of expressing yourself for the right reasons. Obviously, it's also aspirational, because you suddenly feel that you can make so much money and you're splashed all over, so it's a very good profession that way. But you have to see what it entails, what kind of commitment it asks of you. And it is hard work at the end of the day. Whoever has made it today has arrived there because of hard work, and it doesn't come easy. You said something about item songs.
And also I was thinking about how much the heroine in the film has changed, and how do you feel, what have we lost and what have we gained?
Well, look around, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have TV. When I used to ring up Tiger, when he was in Australia, I had to make a lightning call which went via London to Australia. So world has changed. Why shouldn't films be, So it has to change, right? And yes, and so it has changed. And women, perceptions have changed. So, but at the same time, the clothes have changed, let's say. From saris, you're wearing very modern clothes. But when it comes to making an informed decision, still we are making very stereotypical and traditional decisions. And when you see, although it's still quite an old film, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, ya, the Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, they've also aged a little bit. But there also all these Nehas and all these very modern girls, the only passport to life was getting married. And you don't show professional, where more and more women are going out to work. There is hardly any professional women in films. And if they are, then they're home breakers, they cannot adjust, And so yes, it is still catering to a kind of a to a patriarchal image, you know. And item girls, you were asking.
Yes.
I think we've had, when you say item girls, what do you mean? I mean, there is a
Yes.
kind of a song that is incorporated in films, which has really nothing to do with films. It's a kind of entertainment and with the focus of bringing more audience to the theatre. So I think that's what is an item song. And once upon a time, if you remember, the days of vamps and heroines, right? So all the dark things were shown through the vamp. Like I said, the directors always found a way of telling their story, and they did it through the vamp and the heroine construct. But came Khalnayak and came Choli Ke Piche Kya Hai, the line between the vamp and the heroine collapsed. And then the heroine started doing that. Now there was this Choli Ke Piche Kya Hai, which was a very naughty song with innuendos, which Indian societies always had. We've had all kinds of naughty songs sung at weddings and
Yes, the whole folk
all
tradition.
over, folk traditions. And these were two girls being very naughty and tongue-in-cheek and enjoying themselves, okay? Towards the end of the film, she is abducted, she's tied up, and these men are singing the song, imitating and making fun of her. And then Sanjay Dutt sort of grabs her and puts the knife at her throat and says, "Isko cheed ke rakh dunga." Now, I think that is very sexist too.
Yes.
That is far more sexist. But nobody complained about that. Everything was Madhuri Dixit and Choli Ke Piche Kya Hai. It went to the court and everything. So what I'm trying to say, that sexist, we must, today image is paramount. We are seeing so many images. We must engage with those images and we must try and understand this. There has to be media literacy. So talking about images, what was I saying?
When you're talking about the fact that there's violence against women, like in that
so,
scene.
while we must engage and critique every image, every sexist image, we must critique them. But don't think that they only exist in item songs. They exist even in art cinema or any form of cinema. And I think that is far more worrying. That is what is endorsing the point of view, the patriarchal point of view, as opposed to, the fun songs. I mean, young girls dressed up. And again, it coming back to whether it's on the streets or whether you are in the film, the woman is the provocateur. She is the one who's provoking. So I don't think it's about the woman's body. I think everybody has a problem with the woman's body. It has to be covered up. And when you talk about commodification, a person can be commodified when she's covered from everywhere, because you're wearing somebody's watch, somebody's clothes, somebody's hat. So isn't that commodification?
Yes,
Am I not wearing lipstick? Am I not doing my hair? Am I not wearing a brand watch? That's commodification. Men are being commodified. Why should we target women all the time? Why is the morality only in the domain of women?
Yes. It's also because they always feel that the woman has to become responsible.
Because we have
for
to
everything.
somehow uphold the family prestige, the honor of everything, and you humiliate a woman, then you humiliate a community. And even in films, why? I mean, there are many. I mean, Ishq-Zadeh, the whole film revolves around a revenge, which involves sleeping with the woman and then getting her. That's a totally problematic theme. So we must know how to read the text also, It's not just the images that are, and this image blaming has to stop, really. I feel very strongly about this image building. And you must look at the society and not only at images. This is embedded in our mind, this thing about women and how they dress is the epitome and is the cause for everything. It's not. There are many, many messages in ads that are going around. All the cars and motorcycles are men-driven, and all the sari-clad women selling washing machines and everything are from the kitchen. Isn't that sexist?
Yes.
That's very sexist. Why aren't we riding the motorcycles, and why aren't the men washing clothes? So, so we have to look at things differently.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it's the same story, but it's a kind of new forms of the same story, much more subtle and much more difficult. In the old days, it was more black and white, and now there's so many shades of grey that you just don't know what to think. It is utterly confusing what's happening, really. But when just before we finish with the this whole question of the vulgarity of the item number. Please tell me, why do you think that Helen never had this kind of a reaction? Why did Helen never have this?
No, I think again, because you see, the problem is that we decide that some people are not worthy of our respect and some people are worthy of our respect. Now, Helen was not worthy of our respect, not Helen, but the character that she played was on the periphery, on the fringe. When the heroines start doing that, then we have a huge problem,
Absolutely.
And I remember going to, with Shashikala ji, we were shooting outdoors, and we had to use the facility, and we went to somebody's house and wanted to go to the toilet, and they said, you are very welcome, but she is not. Yeah, they wouldn't let her enter. So they couldn't tell the difference, because that time, as I said, people believed everything they saw, and there was no difference between real life and real life. So this worthy of respect and unworthy of respect. So all the dark things were told, and also the words. Now again, coming back to the songs were not so, it was not written in that language, Yo-Yo Honey Singh language. Now, but again, it's not the words, but it's the idea that I'm protesting against, that I'll do this to you and then I'll hit you with my chappals. So that is not an idea that it's a very sexist idea. So these words were not there then. But on the other hand, before the film is released, the music is playing everywhere, over and over again in any kind of public places, including weddings with women dancing and all that. Now, why is that happening? So look at society, try and understand what is happening. Are we become insensitive, or what is happening? So why keep blaming the women who are just doing it with consent, really, and they're not making money from anybody else, they're making money for themselves, and they're all huge achievers. So.
But I think it's also a question of that people would like to think that the women or the actors in a film have more control over the film itself. And maybe that is the big question. They don't unless they say no to a role.
Well, yes. I mean, why should they also A? And B, why are these films running? And why are people are going, and you can always switch it off. You can always not go and see the film. It's individual choice. So because actually we'll not get a consensus what is obscene and what is not. It's a very complex, very, very complex thing, You will not find a uniform answer to this.
Yes, it's a fantastically difficult thing to come and say there's only one way out of this, because we live in a time where the image, as you say, is everything, but the image is telling us many things at the same time. I want to just change the subject a little, because we'll be soon opening the floor and ask you questions. But you recently released a book on your husband. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's just a book. It's a collection of essays from various, his colleagues, like Tony Lewis or Mike Brearley, who played with him, and also the youngsters like Sunil Gavaskar and others, all his friends and colleagues, Bishan, etc. So they've all written short essays, and Suresh Menon has edited it as a very eminent...
and what is the title? Is it
it's
here?
It's called Patodi, Nawab of Cricket. This is Suresh's idea. Wherever he's sitting, I believe he's somewhere. He thinks that Nawab of... because apparently you go to the net, and then, Tiger wouldn't have made sense, but Nawab Patodi, etc., etc. So that's the, but it's growing on me. Initially I didn't like the title very much, but it's growing on me. So that's what it's about. And, just celebrating Tiger's life and career, and basically, I've written the foreword. I don't know how I've managed.
I must say that I read the foreword and it's really moving. I thought it was wonderful. And all of you here must really encourage her to write an autobiography because I think she's got such a big story, really.
It was quite difficult, Munni, to find the right voice. It was getting either too personal or getting too detached. To find the right voice was not easy, and I don't know whether I've been able to do it. But Soha has also written, and so I'm really very grateful that people have come together and helped, and HarperCollins has published it. And I hope people like it. It's one way of remembering and celebrating Tiger.
Yes, of course. Because the thing is, here we are at literary festival, and ultimately what really remains, I know there are thousands of films, but it's the books that remain, and it would be so wonderful to have your story in a book, because it's a vast story which we can't really kind of cover in 20 minutes. Now, I also, just before we start, just one last question. As an artist and as a very creative person, do you think you have a responsibility to really have a voice and an opinion about what's happening in India and the world today?
Yes, I think we are very privileged. Like I said, I've been in the media for 55 years, and others who have, and so many doors open for us. Wherever the diaspora is, wherever the the name is known, and there's so much goodwill. Of course, we get our share of flack also, but I think the goodwill overrides everything. And yes, I think we have to be citizen of our country and the world, and also you have gained so much experience, and you have to speak up and share or influence if you can, or say what you feel, and help wherever you can. I think it's very necessary that we have been so privileged. Why should we back away? And yes, there is, and so much happening in India. There's so much to do, from malnutrition to maternal death to so many issues that is needing help.
Yes, I saw you recently on about the terrible gang rape in Delhi, and I thought you said so many things that was not only moving but very powerful. And I really think, as you say, it's very important that you have that point of view.
I mean, that horrific incident really have brought the youth of India together. Today, the mean profile of India is like the average age is 20 years old as opposed to 40 in America. So they will decide really what our future is. And this has really brought into focus that, but again, when we say youth, can we say the youth of yesterday has also not done their due? They have, I would say. So today's youth is there, they're large in numbers, and we have a lot of expectation from them. But there are many voices, and sometimes the vision is not the same, Right. So they also need to be harnessed, given leadership, and taken towards positive, because otherwise left on their own, they're a huge energy, but it has to have a direction. And I have a lot of expectation from the youth and a lot of hope, but also they need to be channelized. Because as I said, so many of, and 20 years of age is a huge resource and a huge potential for the country. And we really must channelize and make them into a positive force.
Yes. Now, when Sharmila was talking about the youth, to imagine that she started work at 14. So, every generation has their time. Now, I've been told that we've got about 15 minutes to take questions. There is a lady in the front here. Could you keep the question really brief so that more people get a chance?
First of all, congratulations on receiving the Padma Bhushan, ma'am. What I wanted to know was, in the continuing in the same stream, you feel that as film stars should have a social responsibility as well towards their masses. Okay. What I want to know is, with your stint as well, you were associated with the Film Certification Board. I would like to know what were the frustrations that you faced.
She was asking whether, as Sharmila was the chairman of the censor board, what kind of frustrations did you face?
Yes.
Can the next person put their hand up so that the mic goes to them? Thank you.
The frustration was that sometimes, the directions are very ambiguous. We have a guideline, but it still remains, the interpretation is not always easy. Like, for instance, ad films. Like, we are told that you cannot pass them, advertising for alcohol is not allowed. But everywhere alcohol is being advertised. But they say this is, the vodka is being advertised as CDs, and something is being advertised as sodas. But then when you say where are the CDs being sold, they will actually produce some CDs. So these are all very ambiguous lines, and yet the flack comes on us. So, so it's sometimes you cannot understand what those guidelines are. So they really need to be updated and to be very clear, those guidelines. And my policy has been to ban anything, but to be in a discussion, because we found that we were the enabling body between the producers and the civil society and also the government on one hand. So my duty was to take the civil society's concern to the government and also tell the producers and make the producers, like for instance this film which has been stopped, and the initial sale is very, very important for the producers. He's invested so much money because it's a huge industry. It is employing so many people, as a huge economic engine. So we need to promote that. And at the last minute if the film is stopped for 8 days, it suffers a lot of loss because they have advertised, So I think that this dialogue is very important for all the stakeholders. And that was my way of, and of course there were other administrative glitches. But generally things worked out, I would say. But you have to be at it. It's a very important job, and you have to keep on talking amongst all the stakeholders.
Okay, it's a question over there. The gentleman has a mic, and where is the second mic so the person in the red jacket can get it? Thank
Hello,
you.
ma'am. I'm here.
Good evening, ma'am. I want to ask you that, don't you think that actors and stars also have some social responsibilities, because all the person follow their stars and all, but very few stars are involved in it.
You didn't understand the question.
He said that don't stars have a social responsibility, but you did actually answer that. But I think he's asking the same thing.
Are you saying that stars don't have social responsibility? Well, fair enough, each to their own. I think right now what you call stars, you see, we are all worshippers of the rising sun, right? So, you would say all these young people are stars. And they are at the moment very, very busy working. I'm sure their time will come, and they do a lot of things. Like I just read Hrithik Roshan has helping some disabled, has given lots of money.
Family.
So Salman Khan gives lots and lots of money in charity quietly. So does Sanjay Dutt. Enormous amount of money. So these people are doing, and everybody is not publicity hungry and they don't want to advertise what they're doing. But a lot of people are doing a lot of things.
There's a
Hello,
gentleman
ma'am.
there. Yes, there's 1 minute, please. There's a gentleman there, and then
hello, good
the
evening,
mic
ma'am.
will go to you.
First of all, in the last session, we came to know this is your first visit to Jaipur, so we'd like to extend a very, very warm welcome to the Pink City. Ma'am, my question to you is, we are always criticized when it comes to any aspect of filmmaking when we are compared with Hollywood. So you've been so intimately involved with the filmmaking process since a very, very long time with the cinema phenomenon. So what's your take on this? What's one thing that makes us stand out when it comes to comparison with Hollywood?
Hollywood.
With Hollywood.
But why should we compare ourselves to Hollywood? You know, we have a different kind of storytelling. You know, our storytelling is very different. It comes from Jatra, from Parsi theatre. You know, all that inspiration has come from elsewhere. And we don't really need to, I don't think. And thank God we have this very captive audience at home which supports us. And the diaspora outside will rather watch Shah Rukh Khan or, Saif Ali Khan than Mel Gibson or Brad Pitt or anything. So I think, but having said that, I don't think we need to do that. And original script, we shouldn't really copy and get into that, because why? Just concentrate on making a good film the way you want to express it. And we have very good directors here. We've got Tigmanshu Dhulia, we've got Vishal Bhardwaj, we've got Imtiaz, Anurag Kashyap. There's so many. So I think this younger generation is doing good work. Kahani, these are wonderful pictures.
Ma'am, all through your...
Just 1 minute, please. There's a gentleman who's already taken the mic, so...
An evening with Sharmila Tagore. Sharmila.
आपका सवाल
Sharm is the
बताइए.
ornament of Sharmila Tagore. I remember Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore expired on 7th of May 1941, born on 7th of May 1861.
That's right.
So according to my Guru Rabindranath Tagore, an evening with Sharmila Tagore, संध्या रवि बाबू कहते हैं, संध्या रवि ने पूछा मेरा, एक दीपक ने पूछा मेरा काम लेगा, संध्या रवि ने पूछा मेरा काम लेगा कौन?
I'm so sorry,
एक
but
छोटे से दीपक
there's
ने
a
कहा
line
मैं
of
करूँगा
people
ना.
wanting to ask questions.
A word of inspiration from Sharmila Tagore.
Achha,
I
there's a
think
lady and,
I'm
please let
absolutely
us-
without inspiration right now to answer that question.
Hello,
could you
ma'am.
pass
It will
that
come
mic
to me, I'm sure.
Ma'am,
But thank
excuse
you
me.
very much. Thank you.
There's a young lady there who'd like to ask a question. Can you find the other mic so it's the process?
Ma'am, there's always been, all through your career, there's always been an awe-inspiring sense of confidence about you and your identity and a great sense of individuality. Does it come naturally to you, or is it a product of time and atmosphere that you've spent in the entire
Well, thank you
span?
so much for saying that. I would say that it's both. That sense of self, as you said, came from I suppose it's in my collective memory. I think it's, I would make a very classist remark and say that it's because of my parentage. I mean, where I was born, I had, we are 3 sisters, and I lost 1 sister, and we were never made to feel the lack of a brother. And we felt very equal. Only coming to Bombay, I realized this importance of boys and sons, because in Bengal, we really didn't feel it at home. So I think I had that confidence and felt that I will always land on my feet, because when I came to Bombay, I was not even chaperoned. I stayed alone in a hotel, which was unheard of at the age of 17. So, I was a social suspect for a very long time, but I'm the same person today that I was then. But so yes, family. And then the second part, as you say, slowly you learn, you imbibe, you grow up, you evolve, everything is a learning process. So, but you have to be open to that. So I think both are necessary.
There's a lady who's already got the mic. Can you put up your hands for the next question? Who is the next?
Good evening, ma'am.
There's a gentleman over there with glasses.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm 16 years of age, and I would like to tell what a big inspiration you are to all young women around the world, especially 16-year-olds. My question is regarding censorship, and keeping in mind that media highly influences children, or not only younger but also teenage children. If you see movies such as Breaking Dawn and movies which are made for youth, which consists of, let's say, a rape scene or a physical relationship or a sex scene. These movies are given the certificate of A. But then you also have movies like Rowdy
Please
Rathore.
tell me your question.
Yeah, you have movies like Rowdy Rathore, The Bung, which consist of a lot of violence, but they still get U/A certificates. Why is that so?
Yes, you're quite right. But we want to be, because it's a very democratic process, and all these the panels, they choose, they certify, and then sometimes even the minister cannot overturn that certification. But these films came after I stopped being the CBFC chairperson. Everybody has to bring their sensibilities, and that UA is a very very iffy zone, and a lot of people try to get that passed. And when I was there as a chairperson, I had requested, and in fact in writing, that change the certification process and have age specific, 12 to 15, 15 to 17, 17 to 18, etc. And but that is still lying on the minister's table, and they haven't really looked at it. But I think that process, and particularly the UA, has to stop. But also people take their children to see A-certified films also. And they should be advised, consumer advised, that this film contains explicit language, this film contains explicit sexual scenes, and that is necessary, because even the ads in the papers don't carry the certificate. The posters are printed before the certificate is given. So the posters don't carry the certification. So these things we had pointed out to the ministry, but they haven't taken a decision on it.
There's a gentleman standing there.
Ma'am, good evening. Good evening to you. You spoke of Safar and Mausam. Actually, my personal favorite has been Amar Prem. You related it to being a professional in Safar and so on. But I think in Amar Prem, the motherhood which came out, despite your circumstances, and the final line when Rajesh Khanna says, "Maa ko le jao," and then there's the Durga Puja also going on. I mean, I think it's a very touching movie. Would you like to tell us your experiences about that movie?
Actually, when people see me, Aradhana and Amar Prem are the two films that they often mention. And again, later, only recently, I've started looking at popular films and tried to understand that if a film is liked by so many and has survived for so many years and has this ability, I mean, people revisit the same film over and over again, it must have something. So popular cinema needs to be looked at. And I felt the subtext of Amar Prem is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Munni, who's a film scholar, is that nobody is related to anybody. The biological relations are not that important, but the relationships that you create transcends the biological, and that somehow people have, without knowing perhaps, but have responded to it. This son is not really her son, and yet he's the one who's closest. The character of Rajesh Khanna is not really her husband or that way in a relationship, a partner, but yet he's the one who sustains her. So I think this relationships that you create without having any biological connection is something that is very endearing. I think that is the subtext that people react. Now, you're calling it motherhood, I'm calling it something else. And I feel that is the message of the film, and that is why people have loved it over and over again.
Yes, I think she means that, the human ties that matter, not necessarily the fact that you're part of the family.
Yes.
There's a gentleman standing there with the mic. He's already got the mic, yeah. Yes.
Hi, my question is Sharmilaji.
Can you hold the mic closer to your mouth? I had the same problem, sorry.
Okay. Do you think we made better movies?
Just you have to
Can't
keep
hear
them
you.
very close to your
Okay.
lips.
Do you think we made better movies during 15 and 16 than what we make today?
He asked if we made better films in the 50s and 60s.
It really depends on the taste. It's such an individual taste, I feel that we continue to make films. Like today, if we make the films of then, uh, the taste has changed, everything is different. So I think sometimes in the nostalgia of the past, you lose the energy of the present. So we really have to appreciate the films we are making. But yes, of course, some classics will always be remembered, like Do Bigha Zameen or Mother India. I mean, they will live on forever, right? Guru Dutt's films. So those films are immortal. But by and large, I think even today's films are not too bad. I mean, there are. Pan Singh Tomar was very good, so was Kahani, right?
But
And also the regional films are now getting very, very, they're making very important regional films.
But one thing one must say, because there's so many young audience here, you never see the old films, so that you can't hark back to the 50s and 60s and you never see the old stuff. Now there's a lady here who's already got the mic. Can I have the next question? This one here, over here.
A very good evening
And
to you,
the
ma'am.
lady here is the last question.
This is with regard to the role of the censor board, because discussion on it was also, it took place earlier. As a society, like, we seem to have an exceptionally high threshold when it comes to accepting violence against women, or as you just pointed about, general sexism that prevails in Bollywood. Yet at the same time, it has been seen that even the censor board, like its decision, is overridden a lot of times by, pressure from different groups and communities about how their sentiments have been hurt. And it seems that at that point of time, and this point was raised earlier in a discussion
Can you
as well.
come to the question, please?
Yes, so I mean, what's the role of the censor board here, when it comes to like preserving creative autonomy? How do you plan to, what are your views about reconciling creative autonomy, let's say, with the decision of the censor
So
board?
you
and-
basically want
No,
to
what
know...
you're saying is that sometimes there are these extraneous body which are doing the job of censorship, like Jodha Akbar got banned and that sort of thing. Yes, that happens because I personally believe that these things are not spontaneous at all. These are started by some vested, groups with some vested interest, and because when you attack a very big film, you get instant publicity. So they do this to draw attention to themselves, and in the pretext of law and order or something. And then once they become a body, they start collecting donations, and it gives them legitimacy, So that's what happens, and then government does, So it's no longer after we have certified, we have no further role to play. Then it remains on the law and order situation. Now the law and order situation is a state subject. So different states, like Gujarat banned Fana for no rhyme or reason. But it becomes a state thing. So the center can. CBFC cannot, we don't have a role to play there at all. But this is happening continuously. And again, in my suggestion, I had said that it should come under the center government. But the law and order is always, and they make a pretext of law and order and halt the movie. But I had given a very good suggestions that one should have one court which takes on all these public litigation things. So that Jodha Akbar, they had a case in Punjab and then in Bengal and somewhere. So the producer had to run around so many places, and it caused them so much problem. So again, the government can do something about it.
Okay, we've got so sorry, but the last question from you. Please come to your question.
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm from Delhi, and we work with Center for Media Studies, which is a research organization, and looking at a lot of issues where we work on, but one of the key issue is looking at how cinema is influencing behavior and the kind of role models that people are looking forward to. Now with December 16 incident that happened, and don't you think the cinema has that kind of onus on that particular incident, has some role cinema had at least played on? And unless Bollywood came forward, had done a lot of candle march.
Bollywood has really contributed to a lot of positive thinking also.
Yeah,
so just don't go on the negative. And I think I've answered that question, that you have to look at society first and family first. Are you saying that the cinema has better influence than family has?
Yeah, I'm saying
the family
equally.
has the far greater influence on the members of the family than cinema has or ought to. And if they are not doing it, then the family is not doing their job. So I think you have to look at family first and then at cinema.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm
So
just have
we,
not-
I'm so sorry we have to wrap up.
I'm
We've
just
been
saying,
told.
I just have
Okay.
not finished. I'm just simply
Please
saying
come
that.
to your question.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Bollywood came forward and did a lot of candle march and all that. I'm just saying, apart from all that responsibility
are you
everybody
saying?
has it, I'm saying beyond the candle march, Bollywood and
I
everybody
think
has to
what
reflect on
Sharmila ji
that.
said is the
No,
most
the-
important question.
Everybody has done candle march and protested, and we were all, India was one in the protest. I don't think anybody, was unaffected by what had happened. But please don't look at Bollywood. Bollywood is your scapegoat for all the, everybody flocks to the theatre and everybody condemns. This love-hate relationship will continue with Bollywood because it's a kind of, seems to be a primary, most important thing in everybody's life. But please do look at society and look at your, anybody within your periphery of influence and speak positively and try and bring up your sons and daughters equally and not give that extra entitlement to the son and diminish the girl child. So if you begin with that, then we would have achieved something.
Can we join Sharmila Tagore with a round of warm applause and thank her for coming here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Many thanks, Sharmila Tagore and Nasreen Kabir, for that thoroughly enjoyable session. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I appeal to you, please don't mob Sharmila Tagore. Let her go at least to the author's lounge, and then the press interviews and everything will happen there. Thank you.
I think we have to go somewhere now. When you will come?
Ladies and gentlemen, please make way for Sharmila Tagore. Let her pass through. The next session cannot start unless she leaves. Thank you. Gentlemen, our last